Well, if you've watched my channel, there's no secret I've had a lot of projects where I mentioned it would be awfully nice to have a tiller. And today I kind of break in the bank and broke down. I'd been looking since probably day one since I got my tractor to find a tiller. I was looking on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and the only time in that whole period of time, which is about a year now, I only came across one that I would buy, and the deal kind of fell through. So this is a county line tiller. It's 48 inches. It's made for 25 horsepower, which is what the 1025R is. And my first choice might have been a King Cutter. In fact, when I downloaded the manual for this before I bought it, it was actually the King Cutter 48-inch XB. So they're very similar. I think there's a few differences, but it's made by Tartar. Then here's basically the assembly parts right here. There's not a lot to it, so I'm not going to go in great detail about the step-by-step of the assembly. My worst fear was actually getting this thing out of my truck. I wasn't sure if these clamp-on forks was going to be able to lift it. It is about 550 pounds altogether, and it had no problem. So that was a load off my mind, just getting it out of the truck. I thought it'd come on a pallet, but if anybody knows like if there's any projects or if you could turn something into these metal type bar pallets that it came on, let me know. Otherwise I'm just going to pitch it. Well, my next step is getting it out of that metal pallet. So I got my straps out from the shed, and I was able to lift it with no problem with the front end loader. As I said, I'm not going to go into great detail on the assembly. It was pretty much straightforward, but I'm going to give you a 360 here, just so you can kind of get an idea where the brackets go, the supports, and do they get bolted on inside the supports or on the outside, and just give you a little 360 if you're going to be putting one of these together, and you might need a little help. So it was a toss-up between this county line and the King Cutter XB48, and the King Cutters at our Rural King were never in stock, and they always wanted you to pay for the shipping to the store, and it didn't seem like they had any good sales. So this one was on sale at Tractor Supply. I didn't have to pay for shipping. I had a 10% coupon, so it got me down to about 1,200 bucks. Now the unit doesn't come with any fluids or any lubrication, so you do have to put gear oil in it, and then you have to buy some grease for the gearbox. The gearbox does take a 5/8 inch hex bolt, which I do not have, so I'm going to order one on Amazon. So that bolt there is for basically you open that up and you fill from the top, and once you start getting the gear lube fluid flowing out from this lower bolt here, then that's when you stop. So it ended up taking about 1.5 quarts of gear lube. So this takes 00 grease, and it is a grease, so it's kind of thick. It'd be helpful if you probably warmed it up a little bit, put it out in the sun before you used it. I just kept adding one from the other container to kind of keep the bottle full so I could squeeze it in there. And then there's a couple grease fittings that you have to take care of, one on the unit itself and then 2 on your drive shaft. Now, the next thing I'm doing is checking to see how much play I have in the drive shaft here. Most people I looked on the forums and the questions about this unit say they all had to cut their drive shaft, and right now it looks like I still got some clearance, so I'm going to lower these rails to kind of simulate the lowest point that I can get the tiller. Still looking like I have the clearance, and I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to take it to a part of my yard where there's like a little swale by the driveway and kind of simulate how deep the tiller would go when you're going into the ground. So it still has the clearance there. I think I'm going to just give it a test and try it out, but I'm definitely going to take the drive shaft off so I can grease the whole shaft, and then while I got it off, I think I am going to cut about 1 inch off. So I need an area to test, and if you've been watching my videos, you know this area here I've been slowly clearing out and working on. It used to be where our chicken coop was, and I used the tractor to move out the chicken coop and cut down some good sized trees. And this last tree here is an apple tree that's had a good lean to it. So we're just going to bring it down, and this is going to be the site of our future garden. So all in all, this tree was pretty good size, and from start to finish it took about 15 minutes just to cut off these branches, clear everything out, and then get this tree out of the ground. So this was another good use for the brush crusher I just got, and I'm certainly going to put it to work in the next couple months working down my driveway. Then lastly, I just got to get the stump out of here, and I thought maybe I could do without using a backhoe and just kind of push this thing out of the ground. And it's moving a little bit, and every time I push on it, it moves a little bit more, so I just don't want to give up, see if I can get it out with the front end loader. I just want to bring up, I don't know if you remember the video I made about night ops where I started digging out this stump at night with my LED lights, but this was a pretty good project here. This almost got the best of me, and the problem was is that that stump is so close to the stump behind it that it was hard to dig in between the two. I loosened it up pretty good, and I thought, man, I could just probably pull this out with my truck, but it wasn't budging. It was moving a little by little. I even had the orange guy from next door. He was out and about with his tractor, and it's a good size. It's a commercial tractor, and he pushed on it a couple times, and he couldn't get it out. So it was about another 3 hours of work. I didn't really document much of it. Just me and the tractor, and once I did get it out, it was a good sense of accomplishment, and it was a nice day to be out just working. Okay, so I got the area cleared off. I think this is going to be a good test. Like I said, it's going to be a future garden, so it'd be nice to turn this over here in the fall. I think the land is going to be kind of unforgiving here because, as I said, these trees just came out recently, so I'm sure there's going to be tree roots under there. There's probably pieces of shale. It's pretty packed where the chicken coop area was, so I think this will be a good test. And go easy on me. This is my first time using a tiller, first time hooked up, and you're going to see everything unedited and without stopping. Like I said, there's a lot of tree roots in the area. The ground also, it's probably hard to see with the camera, but there's the ground isn't the flattest. It's got some good indentations, and some parts are deeper than others. So far so good. I'm hitting, you could hear me hitting some tree roots, but it seems like it's chopping through them pretty good. I do have a lot of projects in the future for this tiller. Certainly this garden here. We're going to replant our front yard and backyard probably next year, so we're going to use it for that. My daughter had her septic tank put in this past summer, and there's a good part of her yard that's going to have to be reseeded and leveled out, so I'll be taking it over there. So I venture to see a lot of things I'm going to use this for, and I'm glad it's working out so far. Now the subsequent passes are getting a lot easier, less bumpy, and it is really making some good powder out of this packed soil. I've been waiting all summer, most of the fall, to just tear up this old compost pile we had. It's mostly from the chicken coop. And I'm just going to be able to dump it now in the garden area, let that season through the winter, and retill it up in the spring. So nothing's broken. The slip clutch worked as it should. It seemed like the factory settings was fine. All the tines seemed intact and were not bent. I've got a few more things to do here before I can put the garden fence around here. So I want to run some wire from the house to the shed, and it's going to have to go through that garden area, and I'm going to try to use a subsoiler to make a trench, and we'll see how that goes. So first time use, I'm happy. It's going to help me out a lot around here. I've got some more work to do here and some leveling out, but all in all it went very well. It's starting to rain, so I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to put this in the shed, and it's supposed to stop in about 45 minutes. And don't forget, you got to take your rocks down before you pull in. So with another attachment means some more space taken up, and I had to rearrange here, move things around, and I'm trying to make everything so I can get to them, either in the front here, so everything is accessible if I need to use it. So if I need to use my carryall, I can back in here and grab my carryall. If I need to use anything with the front end loader, I can come off of my scaffolding here and take off the brush crusher or my snow plow. I can go underneath that and grab things with the 3-point hitch. And then This brush hog is always even though it's a 48 incher and it's made for a subcompact tractor, it is a big bulky piece of equipment, and I don't know, I'm gonna have to find something easier. I know when I go to back in there to try to get it off, it's always hard to get on that 3-point hitch. Well, that's gonna do it for today. I appreciate everybody watching. If you enjoy these videos, and I'm sure I have a video for just about every attachment you see under this overhang. It's starting to get a little crowded, but still everything's out of the weather. But if you enjoy these videos, I hope you subscribe and keep an eye on us. It's about time for the turkeys to come out in the backyard, so I'm going to go check it out and maybe see them roost up in their trees.